Michael Asher, welcome back. We had such a spectacular conversation and podcast with you last time that we could not help but invite you back. And you were inspired to suggest that we invite Venetia back as well to join us for a four-way conversation because Venetia is training and studying animation at university, which is a very unusual profession. And so she can add a totally different dimension to the extremely creative and original artwork that you produce, which is in response to Angelina Jordan's songs. And so we should have a humdinger of a conversation this evening.
I don't think I ever heard that word before.
It's a cross between a hummingbird and a doppelganger.
Okay.
So we should have a smashing conversation this evening in any event. So we have six paintings to look at because once Michael did the first podcast with us, he really got the bit between his teeth and he's gotten totally inspired. He's put pastel to the canvas and he's treated us with one treat after another.
It's really cool too because to get pastels to look realistic is really difficult. So that's really cool. Yeah.
It's a really fragile medium. If you do it like traditional, like Degas or Renoir, they go straight into the material and they work it as an impressionist do, hard on color separation. But the way I did it is basically I was just trying to reproduce painting. So I just treated myself to learn to layer the same way you do with an oil painting.
So we have six paintings that we're looking at tonight, Michael, which are the fruit of your labor. And the first one is in response to Angelina's Our Time.
Take me or leave, 'cause I am being unapologetically.
So let's have a look at this painting, and why don't you talk us through it?
Well, the basic premise on this one is Our Time. It's a party. It's basically a party, and I crashed it. So that's actually me in the upper left-hand corner that looks like a little gremlin with a pencil mustache. And if you'll search through there, you'll see Angelina about 3/4 of the way through. What I did is I set it up in column sections so that they represented the space between the stanzas of the song from left to right. The idea was to allow the viewer visually, as they also hear the music, be able to follow the same stanza rhythms from point to point, from column to column in each section of the picture. So essentially it's divided up in 12 different segments. You may not see it clearly, but the indication's there. It'll hit you, especially where the color changes are. So that allows you, even though it's so brilliant, it also allows the viewer to go through the piece from left to right while they're listening to the music too. It should correspond. Okay. And that's, every time I show any of these pieces, I have to play her music with it. Otherwise, I've failed the process if it doesn't work that way.
Is Angelina the tall figure in black? Is she the tallest one there?
If you go down to the bottom, you'll see a foot. Follow the foot straight up, and that's her. She's actually holding something that looks like a guitar.
Okay. I think this may be a little bit too abstract for me.
Well, it's a party, man.
Are you in this picture, Michael?
Yeah, if you go to the upper left-hand corner, a little brown circle with the face, it looks like a pencil mustache.
Got it.
Yeah, that's me. That's my invite to the party.
Who else is invited to this party?
None of these people are celebrities except for me and Angelina. Well, this might be the only time in my life I could say something like that. So, no, nobody else represents any actual person. If you look, you'll see dozens of faces in there, especially in the upper area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a conglomeration of childish little faces and smiles. And, you know, it's when I played this, I played it again. I played it for kids, and they basically turned it into a little dance party out of it. So Our Time is effectively very much like Fire and Rain. To me, is very much a happy child song. Let's dance.
If anything, it's even more than Fire and Rain, I think.
Yeah, well, Fire and Rain takes other direction, I think, but this one is strictly focused on the party aspect. I mean, it is. It's a party. It's our time.
Have you been inspired by Mary's naive, childish?
Well, yeah, a little bit. You'll definitely see it in the last one. and what is life. Yeah, definitely inspired. I even tried to follow her technique, and then I realized that that wasn't even right to do that. It's better just to be inspired and to come up with my own version of that approach. And what she does, you can't really call it abstract. It's almost hard to categorize what she does. Like her granddaughter, very hard to categorize what she does too. So I'd be pretty bold to say she's created her own genre. I mean, there's all types of art, but I've been looking at Mary's art more and more as I've been doing these too. And total respect for her approach.
It must be well into the party because you've captured the fact that everyone is a little bit tipsy.
That's subjective to the viewer. If they want to party that way, that's fine. They can see it that way. I was seeing it more like a bunch of kids at a birthday party. But yeah, some of them do look a little bit like they're in Slant City.
I am gonna say though, you don't need to be drunk to like have a party, to have a chaotic party. I don't drink, and I can be a true party animal at a party. So they could just be high on life, high on energy. So.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I remember one time talking about Gene Simmons. That she met him when she was a little kid, and he was giving her advice. And her respect to him, he never drank or smoked. He never did drugs, which surprises everybody. But she found that as something to look up to. And Kiss is pretty wild. I think Alice Cooper, too. He doesn't drink either. And so you can always be surprised by what people do and don't do. But absolutely, you don't have to get high to be high.
Venetia, I don't drink either. And I was in a pub once and I told someone I didn't drink. And he said, "You don't drink? How do you talk to people if you don't drink?" And I said, "I just open my mouth and I move my lips and the words come out. That's how I talk to people."
I love just the life of this painting, because when I was listening to the song and looking at the painting, I was like, I can clearly see not only the party, I can see like you got the song right away. Like I see it in the painting. I see the amount of circles that you have kind of also represents the heights of the song. It's like it starts with a nice like strong beginning. It kind of gets a bit lower until it climaxes. The very, very middle is exactly that climax moment, which has her high note, has her session, and then it slowly goes a bit like to the end, and it's so nice. You can also see it in the colors, because you start a lot stronger with your yellows. They're a lot more like going to hit you in the face, and at the end you add a bit more of the white. The little circles and the scribbles become even more at that area, so even more like fading that color, that kind of music if you want. So it's really nice. When I first saw it, not reading or listening to, let's say, what you've described, that's what already came to my mind. I'm like, this fits right away, the painting, and I really love the life of it. Like, it describes the songs perfectly.
That's about as on point as I could hear anything. The white areas are to allow you to breathe between all the energy. The white in the columns, it gives you kind of a breathing space a little bit between the energy, because that's the way the song is. It's bump, 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 and then there's breaks between it. So I hope it works. That's what I always hope.
It does. I really like explaining things and like trying to figure out things. I sometimes don't find the actual answer, but it's always fun to try.
Oh, there's a lot of not actual answers. No, that's why I wanted you to be on this show, because I really want to hear what you think, your perspective. You have a good way of communicating a visual to an audio.
Thank you.
The next painting, I believe, is Princess of Ruins.
Yep, here we go.
Let's say it's true, you're left with nothing. Everything is everything.
This is breathtaking. When I saw it, I'm like, it's beautiful. I kind of thought of a different story than what you actually depicted. When I started my reactions and everything, the first thing that people told me about Angelina Jordan was her story of she saw the girl in the streets and she gave her her shoes, and then she left and she decided to go from there on barefoot. So from there on, I saw this painting and I'm like, I see this as the girl that Angelina gave the shoes to. And I see the little hearts and the clothes and the sparkles as like a life that's starting to be recreated, to be reshaped. And the heart that's so like clear there is the heart that's been opened up to even more like kindness to the world. Let's say a child's already kind, but when you show a child kindness, it will be kind to others growing up as well. So yeah, that's what I got from the painting. And I really like that.
No, that's a good impression. When I began this, what I wanted to stay away from was the sad situation of the girl of presenting a little ragamuffin in the street. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to show what this kindness has done for her. The subtitle of that song is Anything is Everything. And I understand that. And the moment that she received what she received from Angelina, that's a moment of happiness, and that's what I wanted. I wanted the joy in this girl's face, not the misery of her life. The only way I would describe the misery of her life would be the dress breaking down. That's the only indication of it. And it's kind of a slum background, but it's a fanciful, beautiful one that's turned pastel in the colors that a little girl would love. This is really all about the girl, but it's also about Angelina. Angelina is represented in three different places in the picture. The crown, which is actually a spiritual crown because it's not tangible. So it's a crown that's actually waiting for her. The first heart with the blue sky and the sea is Angelina's comment of how much she wanted to be her at one point. She wanted to be her for just a moment, and that her eyes were like the sea and like the sky. So that represents Angelina's heart to her. And the large heart at the bottom that she carries is the girl's own heart. And as you can see, it's literally between two hearts. I also tried to conform her a little bit to Mary Zamani's drawing of her where she's holding Angelina. And of course, that's all guesswork too, because, it's kind of an impressionistic type drawing. And of course, I'm trying to do something that's closer to reality. But that's the best way I could present it from seeing that. And I already knew that she had startling blue eyes. That everybody knows. And of course, ankle boots that she gave to her. Also, there's a point in this where the girl is really represented more like a saint. She's a princess, no doubt. But in the early drawings in the book, you see her comforting Angelina, which you would think would be the other way around. This is the girl that's in poverty, and yet she's finding moments to comfort Angelina, which is why I think Angelina wanted to be her. I think she saw a higher calling in this girl, and she rose to the moment when she met her. I said there's three things. There's the crown, the second thing is the heart in the middle, and the final thing is Matthew 25:35-40, which I'll paraphrase real quick. When I was naked, you clothed me. And then the servant said to the Lord, when did we see you naked and clothe you? And the Lord said, when you did it for the least of my little ones, you've done it unto me. To me, this was a test for Angelina at 6 years old that she passed with flying colors. And I think it shaped her whole life from there on. So that's why I included that in. There's other Easter eggs in it. The purple scarf represents royalty. And there's no sad story in this one. You animate moments, and I freeze them. So there's kind of a connection there. To me, this is a frozen moment in time.
No, I like that. I love that before I started actually animating, I also represented moments frozen in time, specifically by duplicating a face to show the movement from one to the other in one still image. So I love that I can see movement in your painting. Like if I were to add to it, like I would start moving the little particles, let's say closer to the girl or further away to the girl, or them like getting closer, or the shoes not being there, and then they appear as like an emphasis to that moment specifically. Or I see that, and I really love that a painting also makes me think of the movement. I love seeing paintings and then bringing them to life through animation. Like that's even more fun for me.
It's easy to do artwork to Angelina Jordan's songs because she animates my mind. And when I listen to her sing, I see images all the time. And the only job I've got really is to bring them in and make them make sense visually. It's very easy to do. My presentation is one of honor to this girl. It's about the clean purity and honor of this young girl, a real princess.
It's great to have this type of explanation from you, Michael, because many paintings will have a lot of symbolism, but it's very rare for the artist to come on and describe bit by bit every single item and every single symbol in a painting. And it not only brings the whole thing to life, but it just makes it that much richer. It just takes art to a higher level to have this type of explanation.
Well, I hope to give the viewer a sort of kickstart into the piece because there's a lot more going on than what I've said, too. I just say enough to get you started.
That's exactly what I have when I'm listening or reacting to songs from the lyrics or from an explanation. Oh, I pick up this thing, or I picked up this detail. When you mentioned the particles, I saw the edge of one of the two columns that you have. It looks kind of like a wing starting, so it emphasizes a bit of the saint a little bit more, but in a very nice and abstract way, not too strongly. Also, the crown, I always see a halo when you say crown. I just see a halo, which is really nice.
It's kind of both. That's the crown that lasts forever.
Very true.
So, Michael, what kind of sizes are you working on when you're doing it? Because of the details in the face and everything.
Most of the pieces are 20 by 30 inches. I don't know how that works with centimeters.
20 inches is half a meter.
That's a different size. Dramatically is Fire and Rain. That's much smaller. That's like 1.5 foot by 1.5. 3/4 of a meter by 3/4 of a meter.
Because when I first saw this painting, Michael, I misunderstood it, and I thought that her face should capture some of her poverty, but you corrected me and you said that her face should capture hope, and you are 1000% correct in the decision that you made. The choice that you made to capture the hope in her face is absolutely the correct choice.
No, I agree as well.
Far, far away, there's a little girl. She's singing along with the seagulls in the sky.
The next painting we're looking at is Oslo, isn't it?
If I were to just see the painting, I would say there's a lot. I see it as a whole, but I also see a lot of areas. So let's start with the corner just because I love seeing the girls there just petting the reindeer, trying to feed it. And I feel already like a nice uplifting vibe. Let's say Christmas it gives me in the snow. Then moving on to Angelina smelling the flowers there. There's a calmness. There's also a moment of just breathing area, but the painting is like half divided. There's also a lot of color after that. It's a bloom of color right above her head, which is really interesting, and I really like that. And I'm very curious on specifically the cities that are depicted because they're slowly connected to the mountains because there's a bit of it starting, but I'm not quite sure like the full connection there. And there's like a bridge between abstract and like realistic on like the composition. I feel calm from this painting. I feel like a burst of energy, but I also feel like a bit of a meditation kind of prayer kind of feel also.
Overall, the way I did it was similar to like the posters from the late 60s, early 70s of movies. And the one I was thinking of is like Dr. Zhivago, where you have the character points in the epic drama being painted or illustrated in moments of time of what they've done or what they didn't do. You see these in Lawrence of Arabia posters, same way. And Oslo is an epic song. It's a movie song. It has that epic ballad structure to it. So what I did is we'll start with Angelina Brown Eyes, Angelina Blue Eyes. The point of that is to show the transition of time. That's Angelina with brown eyes is when she was about 12, 13. And the blue eyes is more current. And I placed those together just a position to show a time movement. Then you come around to Angelina smelling the flowers. This is actually when she wrote the song. And the flowers are, of course, that shape of that snowman is also the silhouette of her when she first performed it with the Norwegian orchestra. And she had that huge head of flowers. Now, what she's smelling is she's smelling her memories. She's inhaling her memories. That's the whole point. And of course, Aurora in the sky. Each point is part of the lyrics too. Dancing with reindeers and with the seagulls. You'll mildly see those over Oslo. And the connection between Oslo and the mountains is simply there's a blurred mentality between the city and the country. She sings of the city, then she bounces back and sings about points of the country, then the city. So there had to be a connection that was almost homogeneous, short of having the mountain in the middle of Oslo. So that's why I connected it visually together. And the mountain swarming up between them in the forefront is to give you a chance to divide the two visually. And the Atlantic is calm. It's not ocean waves, but it's in the left-hand side as well. But the whole piece in entirety, it's an epic ballad of her memories. These are all points of time.
Michael, I've been to Oslo, and if I'm not mistaken, I think you can see mountains when you're in the city of Oslo. And the other thing about this painting, which I find absolutely spectacular, Michael, is it is said that for an artist, the hardest thing to paint or draw is the eyes. And you have captured the shine in the eyes with both of the images on the right in a spectacular way. You know, her kindness and her humanity and her softness, you've really captured that feeling in her eyes. And for that alone, I take my hat off to you.
Also, really important to see that the first eyes are kinder, the second eyes are striking. Like they have a purpose that they know of and they want to do. Like you can see the determination in her eyes of like, I want to get my message through.
Maybe, Michael, you can do different eyes for different genres that she sings. Yeah, that could be very interesting.
Yeah, I am an eye guy. Whatever that means.
Does that mean you're self-centered?
Me. I'm a me guy too. Yeah, I guess so.
I thought you were going to say, Alan, the hardest thing for an artist to paint is the hands. Because I think the hand is very striking hand. It's not what you think should be that kind of position, but it's really delicate. And of course, Angelina is famous with her videos when she uses her hands in a lot of very expressive ways. So for me, one of the most striking things is the hand and also the calmness of her face as she smells those flowers.
I find the eye spectacular because it's so difficult to capture the feeling in the eye and also to get the sparkle in the eye. If I were an artist, I would not know where to begin how to capture that.
When I was working on this first, I had drawn the blue-eyed Angelina, just her eyes in the hill. And I wasn't decided or not whether to put her whole face in or not. Then I went back and I thought, it's got to be there. I've got to show her a full frontal view. And it took me like 20 minutes to do it. It's like everything just flowed. That happens sometimes. Sometimes I'll spend hours on the hand, and then when I get to her face, all of a sudden, for some reason, it's like the right energy comes through. And I said, in 20 minutes, I had her face drawn, which is really pretty fast.
Now, there's an interesting thing when you're creating. There's sometimes those moments when you know what you want to make, the feeling that you want to give. You end up creating so much easier and so much faster. I have that when I'm making backgrounds. Let's say I make small gifts for my friends and I customize it to a feeling that I have of them. One of my friends has a very purple feeling for me. So the background is mainly purples and yellows for complementary touches. In a similar way, like those backgrounds flow so easily for me. I add some texture here and there to represent their punch, their energy for life, some like their name, and then add some more details of like their favorite things. But like the background for me is my favorite part, and it comes so easily to me because of that feeling right away. I also recently made my own, which came the easiest out of all, and it's right here. This is my own. This is how I see myself if I were to make myself into a background. It is full of textures, full of papers. These papers I used to clean this background, so I then used them in the background. I've used from inks to purples to yellows to everything, and it flowed so easily. One session and that was it. Is that how it's supposed to be? Like, it was one of the first times that it flowed so easily, but it's really interesting to see how when it does, it comes out and you can't understand how.
In my later years, I've had great respect for people who can communicate abstractly in their visuals. And what you're talking about is a pure emotional expression. And I haven't gotten brave enough to do that yet.
I'll tell you what, my brain overthinks. My brain is running 24/7, and painting backgrounds for me is like meditating for 15 minutes. It's just sitting down, calming down, relaxing, praying, and just like creating something that doesn't have to look like an eye or something that I know of. It's just there, it just exists. So it ends up being the feeling that I have at the moment, and it calms me down as I'm doing it.
That's a great explanation of the balance between the brain and the emotion when you're creating art. It's that fusion between the two and the combination and the chemistry. That's what art is all about. It's the brain and the heart and the emotion all mixing up and making a tremendous mixture together.
Yeah. It's interesting to see though that, let's say, mine is this way, more like abstract, but yours is more line art. This is also really cool to see. There's different artists that have that feel, that vibe with different parts of drawing.
Song for you, wherever you are.
And the next one we're doing is
Million Miles.
Million Miles.
I love that song.
Venetia, over to you.
There's so much. I love, first of all, the circles, the ripples, because it's like the ripples of someone's voice. If you were to place the speaker on a material that moves, and you would get some kind of ripple, some kind of like a visualization of the voice. And it's so symmetrical and so strong that you see it slowly like increasing, taking over, like reaching you in a way. It's so beautiful. Then I love, and I think this is what you were going for, the girl that looks so much like the one that Angelina's grandma drew climbing up the stairs. It looks so much like her, and I absolutely love that, because then you have this huge moon that also has Angelina on it, which takes me to the end of the song, or the climax of the song, if you may, which pushes even more into like the lyrics and is the point that always makes me cry. Just thinking about it, I'm gonna start crying. And then finally, just like how we're surrounded by the galaxy, but also like you have a bit of the galaxy in the main focus of the most realistic version of Angelina. Also, again, so beautiful. And then a small detail that I see is in the center of the ripple. I'm not sure if you were going for a grandma or grandpa. I see grandparents. I'm gonna guess maybe the grandpa, just because the song is dedicated to him.
If you enlarge it, you'll see it. Yeah, that's definitely your grandfather.
Michael, do you know what strikes me? The classical image of the different circles of heaven. Because when Dante wrote the Divine Comedy, he goes up into heaven through the different stages. And to me, this is captured in your painting.
There is a little bit of that there.
I was thinking about the line with empty bubbles, that there's also the bubble theme here.
Yeah, to be thrown. The root of it is really based on her NRK performance. There's actually 9 visible circles, and each one of those is her last part of the performance where she's basically crying in grief, but she does it 9 times. That's like an echo. The circles represented the echo of her voice at that point. Her face is just before that point, the realistic one, and her face in the moon. Venetia, you got it on the nail. That's the point where she actually exploded with that. And her face on the moon also is the solidarity of her connection with her grandfather. It's hard to see until you get close or blow it up, but that's her grandfather holding her as a toddler. And I also thought it was right to pay homage to the first video that Mary did, and that's why I did Angelina as she was in the video, and the ladders too. So there's elements of childhood memories that connect to each other. And her hands are almost completely broken. That was the only way I could bring it back into where her heart is, without it being something in the center of her chest. So I used her hands as a device.
This is so strong, it's so powerful.
I keep hearing the song when I hear it. I was so scared to do this one, more than any of them, even more than Princess of Ruins.
No, because this one is really strong as a song. Like, it's one of the specific songs that makes me cry. Like, it is so important, like the message it shows. It's so interesting to see it depicted in a painting because I see the composition, I see the structure. It works so well with the song from the start to like the center and then going outwards looking at the rest. Like it makes sense. So I think you did it really well. I feel like you really captured the song.
The two images of Angelina, one in the moon and one in reality, the one in the moon almost looks like it's camouflage, but it also looks like one is the conscious Angelina and the other is the subconscious Angelina. It almost has that aspect to it as well.
Yeah, well, especially in this song and other songs, clearly the moon has a strong influence on her. Maybe it started from her grandfather. I was very hesitant to do this one because this song means a lot to a lot of people. Yeah, it is very emotional, but it also touches people at points in their life where they needed to hear it, as it worked as a healing element. And I wanted to make sure and present this one as sincerely as I could, where it was about her healing. This is her healing this time.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Venetia, that this is one of the most important songs that's out there. And this is one of the songs that I want to be played at my funeral.
It's actually a beautiful idea. Because of the meaning of the song, it feels like everyone can reach you wherever you are. That sounds so beautiful.
Next, we have
Seventh Heaven.
I love that song.
We need a break from the intensity.
I'm close to tears again. This is really fun. This is also very interesting because when I think of the song, I think of a very nice club vibe, and that's also kind of what I see here. I see a lot of people like ready to dance or on the line to enter a dance floor, but also a seventh heaven kind of dance floor. I see also the instruments really interesting. Wait, is it a mirror? Because I see a reflection of the instrument.
Yeah.
And giving them confidence, like the song does, bringing them to their seventh heaven, ready to then, let's say, go to a party. That's why there's an instrument there.
That's the bass line through the whole thing. That's a bass.
my impression of this painting is that you relied probably more on the video itself than the actual lyrics.
Yeah, you got it. More the sound of it and the motion of it than anything else. I guess go through explanations. You'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variations of Angelina. Those are all Angelina. Sometimes you have to throw bitterness away. There is still part of a lyrical connection, but it's not obvious. There's 6 different aspects, and then the 7th one is her looking at herself in the mirror and loving the person looking back at her. I wanted to keep it like this instead of literal, to be able to move through the sound of the music as well, the rhythm. The heads are actually, it's a head bobbing piece, and that's what their heads are doing. They're moving to the rhythm of the bass through the whole thing, and that's where the bass is, the bass in the background. But as far as the lyrics go, each incarnation has a different representation of each lyric. It would be kind of bad for me to sit there and go, number 1 is this, number 2 is that, number 3. But if you listen to the lyrics and you look at it, I hope it'll become apparent that each one of those does have a representation, but not heavily. Yeah. It's not like symbolism that I've done in most of the other pieces. I wanted to keep symbolism out of this. I wanted to make it as simple and as literal visually as I could.
I love the colors. The colors make this so alive. This reminds me of the first one we saw, Our Time. It looks like another party.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it as a club room or like a place for partying with the mirror. Like I saw that as a door right away because of the colors.
In this party, they're slightly less tipsy than they were in the first party.
Yeah, the procession, the sound, there's a party element, but you've got to also realize Angelina sings this song. She has her message in it that she once heard, but what she also really wants is people to dance.
Yeah.
People are so damn stiff. It's like they're afraid to get up and move. I think she'd be happiest when she's singing to see people up moving around physically, actually dancing. So I'm on her team for that one. Get up and dance. Get up and dance, you old farts.
Yeah, she said in her concerts in Norway, "I want to see you dance there in the back. Come on, let's see you dance."
Absolutely. I got up when I was in Portsmouth. I got up and made a fool of myself.
We go feeding us with my little sister. After all, she's the love of my life. Life is beautiful.
Now we come to the final painting. What is life?
Yeah, this one is a left curve.
This has a lot again. There's so much. I see a lot of details, but also, again, a lot of moments in time almost. Either memories or there's so many details. Let's say I just noticed the blue bird underneath, and I'm guessing it might be again a grandma or a grandpa protecting Angelina, and her sister, I think, is with her there, the one that she's hugging. The clock in time is interesting, and then the eyes are looking at it. Sorry, but my brain is just trying to decrypt the painting. There's almost, it's as if we're more of like up on heaven, because there's not much of a place that I can say we're in a room or somewhere. No? Like everything is placed somewhere else except for that little portrait, almost window, if you want to think of it, picture that has a lot more color than everything else. It's a lot more abstract than everything else. And it might be the one like pop moment, like more like push moment of the song than, let's say, the rest of this. Also, everything else is a lot more realistic. There's a bit of blue right above. Oh, the blue above Angelina when she's hugging, if I'm right, her sister, kind of also looks like a bird again. Kind of. And the bird's holding something, like a teardrop, or almost like holding like a newborn baby. Like, you know how it says, like, how they travel and they take the baby, like that whole story that people used to say, that the pelicans bring the babies, not a mom and a dad. But there's so many things. There's a piano there also, and I see the clouds as, like, parts of, like, the music. They're traveling and they're creating the image, the rest of the image, almost like visualizing it from the music. And then next to it, the girl with the little clown nose. It's so beautiful. I like it also because it's one of the only moments outside of that image where we have a pop of red, which emphasizes it even more. Because if I look back, I think my eyes go first to the big majority of the image, to the face, but second they go to that girl, which is important because it's one of the main parts of the song. There's a lot I can't really finalize, but I have a lot of different visualizations trying to decrypt stuff.
What strikes me, Michael, is you have three different levels of abstraction. In the top left corner, the face of Juliet, it's almost like a photograph. And then the bottom left, you have the most abstract, and then the top right, you have something in between. So you have three different levels of abstraction, which is very, very unusual in one painting.
I guess I'll go through points on it, okay? What Benicia said was interesting because I could tell she wasn't really familiar with the song, and yet she pretty much expressed the communication of it. That's what I was hoping, is that the imagery would communicate to somebody that has never heard the song. Now, somebody having heard it and know it, as most fans do, a lot of the imagery follows the lyrics as well. But we'll start with Juliet looking back instead of Angelina. Generally, the song is Angelina singing about what is life from her perspective as an 11-year-old. What I wanted to do was focus on the love of her life, which is the focus of what is life, which is her little sister. So I decided to make it Julia looking at the memories from the song. And not just Juliet, but Juliet as an adult. So that's an adult drawing of Juliet. That's taken a lot of license too. But that was my projection of her as a grown woman. So there she is as a grown woman looking back. First thing she looks at is her and Angelina together. And that's, of course, the lyric is, an embrace from someone safe. And the clock is just literally a timepiece connector between her and her memory of her and her sister together. And bluebirds, where bluebirds fly, of course, is where I introduced the bluebird. But I wanted to also make that strong and kind of a heaven representation. Then we moved down to the piano. I playing the piano, making beautiful songs. Again, Youngblood got that one right on the heart. That's music. That's what the billow of yellow smoke circles are. That's the music coming from the piano. Of course, the piano is like half real, half not real, kind of impressionistic piano. Then we go around to the abstract painting, which is paintings like my grandma. And I thought of doing an imagery of Mary standing in front of one of her paintings, or just a painting of Mary's. Then I decided that, no, I ain't going to do that. I'm going to do my impression of one of her paintings with her in it. So this is me contributing to an abstract mentality that Mary applies, and a playful one. So that's Mary, and that's Angelina behind her. So that's what that's about. So that's like my grandma's paintings. Now, Juliet in the right-hand corner, that's not in the lyrics, but that's in my heart. I've said this over and over again. And also because she reminds me strongly of my daughter when she was young, my daughter Hannah. And what I used to call Hannah, which fits Julia to a T, is beautiful clown. And so that's why I put a clown nose on her. And she's still beautiful, even with a clown nose on. So, we're back to a swirl of memories, but these are actually Juliet's memories, not Angelina's.
Is there a reason why the cloud is covering the mouth of the adult Juliet?
Yeah, there is clearly a reason. It's just a visual reason. Showing her whole face would have been too distracting. I think in one of my comments I said it would come off like the billboard in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This big boom. So the cloud was basically a device to split her face, but I still wanted the large face and her eyes to show the impact that this is clearly a memory. All this is her memory.
Do you know how I interpreted the cloud over her mouth said to me, Juliet is not the singer in the family?
Interesting.
I don't know what Juliet's going to be when she's that old, but okay.
But it's an interesting way to just think of, that's not Angelina, that's Juliet. Let's say it's not the one who sings the song, it's the one that remembers the song, the memories.
And what the song is really, it's about a lot of things, like my grandma's paintings, like going to school, like all these things. But really the heart of it is feeding birds with my little sister. After all, she's the love of my life. And then she says, life is beautiful. So that's the expression of beauty in that song from Angelina. And so that's probably Juliet's sweetest memories, where that song comes from.
The top right corner where Angelina is with her sister, it reminds me of the performance when Angelina was singing La Boheme, and her sister was all over her like a warm blanket.
Yeah, I mean, she's a little older here, but yeah, that's pretty much the same. That's exactly right. Warm embrace from someone safe. In this context, that's Juliet saying that.
Well, if we had 20 paintings to do tonight, Michael, we could just go on. And as one of the comments to your videos said, why is it so short? I wanted this podcast to be longer. So I can imagine, Michael, in 6 months' time, that you will have another 10 or 20 paintings for us to look at. And Venetia, we would love to have you back. And we will give you plenty of notice again. And this one will roll and roll and roll.
Yeah. I'm so impressed with your speed of these works of art, Michael. What happened there? You said something like you hadn't painted in 12 years, and now you're producing masterpiece after masterpiece.
Now, when you have the right inspiration.
Yeah, it's like Andy Schnell said, it's amazing how Angelina inspires everyone in their own way. She brings out the maximum inspiration in people that they didn't even realize that they had. That's amazing.
Also, it's what you described, Michael, with when you hear the songs, you visualize right away something. So and no matter how long it took you to start painting again, that constantly happens when listening to songs. So it's easy then to start creating the image a lot faster than I saw something else that's still image. For me, sound, really starts up the process a lot faster.
Yeah, it feels like a resurrection of sorts, like I'm coming back from the dead.
It's like you don't ride a bicycle in 40 years and you get back on, and it's immediately like you've never been off the bicycle. Well, thank you all for coming out on this Sunday evening. It's been great fun, and we will continue to roll with the story of Angelina Jordan in all its different manifestations.
Yes, we will.
Thank you all. It's been great.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Please be my shield against all that's blue. Love me and lead, and I'll carry through. Keep me from danger without good intent. Forgive me for all that I am. Shadows they whisper, still have my soul. Misled are those who march along. You got my dreams here for my home. Forgive me for all that I am. You are my fire when I can see. You're the one watching over me. You are my fire. Yeah. You are my fire when you are lead. Promise you won't give up on me. You are my fire. Surround me with angels, don't let them go. Please live my shelter forever. You got my dreams here for my home. Forgive me for all that I am. You are my fire when I can see. You're the one watching over me. You are my fire. Yeah. You are my fire when you are leading. Promise you won't give up on me. You are my fire. When on my face, hearing back from my bones, feeling so tired and alone. You are